There we go. Hi, everyone. Welcome. It's wonderful to be here. My name is Busshō Lahn, and this is our first, I guess, episode of Mindfulness in Daily Life. So thank you for being here. Thank you to the American Center Moscow for creating this space for all of us to be together today. Whether you're with us live as this is happening or whether you're listening to or watching the recording, I so appreciate you giving yourself this time. This is Mindfulness in Daily Life, and this is the first of a series of 4 that we will be doing, 1 per month. This is February, so February, March, April, and May will all be doing a different topic that relates to mindfulness practice and mindfulness in daily life. And our idea is to try to have a topic each month that relates even loosely to the topics that the Mindfulness Club is doing. So that way it feels a little more coherent and thematic for you Mindfulness Club folks. So before we get started, I just want to say we're going to be doing some ideas. We'll be talking about some teachings and some kind of head stuff, ideas, but we're also going to be starting with and doing a couple of experiential times today. So if you're listening to this or paying attention to this while you're driving or walking or running or something, this probably isn't the right episode. You probably want to make sure that you are in a quiet place and a safe space where you can give yourself to the experiment of the experientials, right? Give yourself to the experiment of mindfulness. I just want to say that ahead of time. And I'll say a couple of sentences about general mindfulness for those of you who are brand new, and then we'll do a short sitting. We'll do a short meditation together. So you may want to plan ahead for where you'd like to be sitting or what you'd like to be sitting on or that kind of thing. So mindfulness is a term most of us, I'm assuming, in this group at least, are familiar with. But it's good to be reminded that what we're actually doing is something that we do all the time, which is paying attention. And just paying attention to our experience of being alive. And we use the word mindfulness to describe and to remind us that we have the capacity to be aware and to pay attention in a way that's very curious and very simple and very kind. Right? Simple, curious, kind. So normally we're filtering our experience, as humans do, through the lens of how we might benefit from something, how we might grab onto something, how we might be threatened by something, how we might push something away. We usually have an agenda for things and for people and for experience, and we like and we don't like. And so normally when we're paying attention to something, we're actually subtly judging it or evaluating it or ranking it or assigning it a value based on how we feel. And so mindfulness practice for all of us is just a way of kind of stepping outside of that way of being and reminding ourselves, I have another way of paying attention to my life, and that's just to allow an experience with a little less, maybe, of the labeling and the judging and the evaluation. Right? So we're just reminding ourselves that we're able to do this. All of us can do this. And of course, if we actually choose to practice this, we get better and better and better at doing it, right? So it's a very welcoming pasture for all of us, but it's nice to be remembered. I already know how to do this, but I'm going to practice it and get even better, right? We'll just be with our experience today, you and I together. We'll just be with it. We'll be curious about it, but we don't need to upgrade it. We don't need to fix it. We don't even need to turn it into a lesson or make it into a self-improvement project. What a relief, right? So grab yourself a cup of tea. Maybe you want to light a candle the way I have. That always helps me. Make yourself comfortable. Turn off your phone. And let's just spend a few minutes to start with before we jump into our topic. Let's just spend a few minutes at the top of our time together here, just being with our body and being with our breathing. Okay, that's usually a really good place to start. So take just a minute and make a conscious decision. Hey, for the next few minutes, I'm just going to pay attention to my body and my breath. And so I'm going to make a choice about how I am sitting. Just the posture. Whatever that looks like, I want to make a decision. I want to make a choice. What direction my feet are pointing. And pay attention to what they're resting on and notice what I'm sitting on. And maybe I want to sit up a little more upright. Maybe I want to position my hands in my lap in a way that helps me feel a little more focused or a little more centered. And I can make a conscious choice. Just a decision. Hey, for the next few minutes, I'm going to let myself not worry about the past too much. I'll let myself stop thinking about later today, tomorrow, and the future quite so much. Maybe for these few minutes, I'll just let the present moment fill my senses. So I'm going to ring the bell here in front of me 3 times. And we'll sit together for just a few minutes. And then I'll ring it again to end. And during those few minutes, I just encourage you to be very curious about the shape your body is taking, where you've chosen to balance your bones. If it helps you to blink your eyes closed like I have done, please feel free to do that. If you prefer to leave them open, that's fine too. But you can use your breath, the sensations of your breath, to help connect you to your body, to help unite body and mind. The breath can be your bridge. So notice where in your body you feel it the most easily. And see what you can notice about it. Its textures, its rhythms, its temperatures. And just do this with me for just a couple minutes. And then we'll shift gears and move on. But listen for the bell and we'll do this together. Okay. Okay. Nice and simple. So, thank you for doing that very simple thing with me. If you've been doing mindfulness practice for a long time, you know this. And if you're newer to mindfulness practice, you might be discovering it. Or if you're like me, you've been doing this a long, long time, and you keep discovering it. And that is that just because something is simple, it doesn't mean it's not profound. And it doesn't always mean that it's easy. So all we did is just sit and breathe, really. And I like to remind all of us, I guess, we were already doing that. Right? When you sat down and logged on today, and you were already probably sitting down and you were already breathing. So all we really did was we made a decision, a conscious, intentional decision to not do that by accident. In other words, to do it with awareness. I was already doing it, but now I'm going to pay attention. I'm going to pay attention to it. Right? I'm not just sitting by accident. My posture isn't an accident. I made a choice. The way my hands are was a choice. The way my feet were pointed was a choice. The posture I chose. And the breaths that came and went would have come and gone anyway. But I tried to pay attention to them. So we started with just a few minutes of mindfulness of body and breath because it's a great way of starting everything. all of our classes together, all of our time together will start that way. But what I want us to be curious about today is that you already, by choosing to pay attention to something, you already imply that it was worth paying attention to. And normally we don't think of our bodies and our posture and our hands and our feet and our breath as necessarily being important enough to pay attention to, especially not to pay attention to in a way that's curious and connecting and kind and interested, the way you just did. Right? There's a profundity there to what you just did. And the reason I'm saying what I am is because our topic this month, is relationships. Right? Relationships. And so what you actually just did is really important for a bunch of reasons. And I'm only going to talk about two because we're going to keep it kind of simple today. Everything we're going to do today is just going to be bite-size. Just bite-sized little things to plant some seeds, right? Maybe to foster some curiosity that you can pursue and be curious about, right, in other areas of your life. But already you did two really important things. And the first was you decided to stop and for right now, let go of past, let go of future, let go of distractions, be intentional. And you decided, whether you were conscious of it or not, you decided this body and this breath and this moment is worth noticing. It's worth including in my awareness. Wow. Can you feel how you kind of give it a value that way? It's worth something, right? And then secondly, and this makes a good segue, right, for our topic, you started to get a little bit connected, at least, to how you were feeling and to what you were thinking. And I know our instruction was just pay attention to body and breath. I know that. But I also know, as a human being, as a Homo sapiens, I'm going to sit still and pay attention to body and breath. And one of the first things I'm going to notice is going to be my thoughts about those things and my feelings about those things. So right away, even after 5 minutes, I'm just more connected, actually, of course, to my body and of course to my breath. A little more connected. I feel a little more connected. I'm also a little more aware. Hey, how are you feeling? Are you aware of emotions arising? What you been thinking about? You know? And so what we're talking about is a contact point with our experience. A contact point. And that's what relationship is. When we say a relationship with something or relationship with someone, it's that place of contact. It's that place of contact between self and other, or between the knower and the known. Yeah, does that make sense? When you're paying attention to your breath, you are the noticer, the knower, and the breath is that what you are in relationship to. That's the known, right? You're the watcher, and the breath is what's watched. You're the experiencer, and the breath is the experience, right? So you already have a sense. Oh, I'm starting to change how I'm in relationship to having a body, to being a breathing being. And in a more structured, and some of you know this, in a more structured or a more formal mindfulness training, whether this is over the course of days or weeks or even years, normally the sequence is some version of starting by getting really good at doing what you just did, which is just exploring our relationship, our contact point with entirely internal objects. My experience of breathing, my experience of having a body, the sensations, the emotions, my impulses, my thoughts, my stories, all that kind of stuff. Right? That makes sense. We get really, really good at doing that. Then eventually graduate to exploring our relationship, our contact point with objects. Do you notice the teacup when you hold it? Can you feel its weight? Do you notice its texture? Right? Mindfulness of objects, mindfulness of food, mindfulness of eating, mindfulness of animals, weather, natural systems, things like this. How does it feel? How does it feel? And then eventually and finally, we graduate to paying really close attention, mindfulness of relationships with other people, with other humans, right? And the reason that that sequence happens is because what you can feel as I'm describing it is I'm going from something that's internal to something that's external, and from something that's external but pretty static, like a teacup or my cat or something, to something that's much, much more complex for me. And that's another person, right? Human beings are very complex beings. You are a complex being. And so the contact point, the relationship between two complex beings, is by nature complex. So what I'm describing is it's challenging. When we look at relationships, relationships are challenging. It's a really important thing to pay attention to, a very important thing to be curious about, and obviously a really important thing to include in our mindfulness practice. But I'm framing it like this because I want us to all understand, hey, it isn't a flip. It isn't a switch that I flip when it comes to paying attention to my relationships, especially my human relationships. It's a period of expansion and a period of growth and a period of practice and a period of just getting better at seeing all of the layers, right? Because again, we're complicated beings. So I'm encouraging all of us to be very curious, but also kind of understanding if we notice that at first a lot of our investigation into relationships it feels complex. It feels complex and a little overwhelming, right? So what we just did, and we're going to explore this just a little bit more now. We're going to do another short exercise. What we just did is mindfulness of body and breath. Hey, where's your body? Where's your breath? Really important to start there. It helps us be grounded. Just helps us remember, come back to yourself. Let go of the ideas. to the best of your ability. Let go of past and future to the best of your ability. Just for right now, give your full attention to yourself. So for right now, let's do another really, really short, just like 2 minutes. I don't even need to ring the bell. Just close your eyes again, if you can. And reconnect to that posture. Reconnect to your body. Locate yourself using the breath. Just find it again. Yeah, we locate ourselves. And then let's ask a question. Hey, how do I feel? From a curious place, just kind of ask yourself, what emotions might you be noticing right now? Anything is okay. What emotions do you notice? Maybe one, maybe several, maybe big, maybe small. Maybe just the top layer. Just a feeling. And then ask yourself, if you've got one, if you can identify a feeling there or two, ask yourself if you can notice any thinking, any stories, any kind of mental narrative about what those feelings might be. Just being curious. We're just being curious. All of us can kind of sense that when we're feeling a certain way, that usually the thinking that we do reflects that feeling in some way, right? When we're sad, we kind of think sad thoughts. And when we're thinking sad thoughts, we tend to feel kind of sad, that they sort of feed. They can kind of feed one another. And same with happy, and same with nervous, and same with irritated, same with anything. So we're just starting to notice, like, oh, there's some fish swimming. There's some fish swimming in the lake. There's some feelings and some thinking. And then finally, just one more thing we might be a little curious about. As we can feel feelings moving and notice the thoughts around them, is there anything there that I want? What do I notice? What do I notice wanting as a result of what that feeling and what that story is? Right? That feeling has a story, and that story has a feeling. And oftentimes, there's a desire there too, something I want. Not always, but usually there's a want there. And just be curious about what that might be. Yeah. Okay. So, as you'd expect, this takes some practice. This takes some practice. It's kind of what we said at the beginning. It sounds simple. Hey, how you feeling? What you thinking about? Right? You'd think we'd all immediately know the answer to both those questions. Woof. The truth is, we oftentimes don't. Geez, I actually don't know how I'm feeling. What were you thinking about? I actually don't know. Sometimes that's hard. Or sometimes one is clear and the other one is hard to see, right? But the reason we're being curious, mindful of this interiority of, hey, how am I feeling? What am I thinking about? And what am I wanting right now? What are my impulses? What's my desire? What's my intention, right? Is I'm about to be curious about my relationship with something. And so I'm half of that dyad. If there's a relationship between me, Busshō, and my cat, or my teacup, or my parent, or my neighbor, or my friend, when Busshō knows, well, this is what he's feeling, right? This is what he's been thinking about. This is what he's wanting. I'm already halfway there at knowing this is what the connection point between me and that other is going to be filtered through. I already know how I'm feeling. I already know what I'm thinking about, and I already know what I'm wanting. And so when this other object shows up, the teacup or the cat or the person, I already have a pretty deep insight, or at least a curiosity about where I am and what I am likely to want that relationship to do for me. Right? So I'm getting to know half of the dyad. Right? That's really important. I hope you can kind of intuit why, mindfulness of relationships is starting with the self. How do I feel? Where's my body? Where's my breath? What am I wanting? What am I thinking? What kind of day have I been having? Where am I at right now? And I'm sure you can see why that's so important. Right? I'm sure you can tell the cat that I see and the person that I interact with, is my perception of those things is really going to change depending on where I'm at. Right? When we're feeling really, really sad, we see a sad world. And so we relate to it as if it is a sad world. And we might want and ask it to make us feel differently. We might ask it to cheer us up. And so if I'm not aware that I'm sad, and if I'm not aware that I'm seeing the world as an extension of my sad, I might not be aware I'm secretly, probably unconsciously, asking it to cheer me up. And I'll be disappointed if it doesn't. And so when my friend comes home and he's also sad, right? I might find that relationship unsatisfying. How come you're not doing the thing I want you to do? Right? These are very simple examples, but I'm sure that you understand the dynamic here is, if I don't know even where I'm at, then mindfulness of relationships isn't going to take me very far. I have to start. I have to start with how I am feeling and what I am wanting. It's really, 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 really important. There's another layer to this that for now I think we can mention, but then move on from. And that is, as our practice continues, as we sit, as we practice mindfulness in all of its various forms, we get better and better and better at knowing ourselves. And one of the ways that shows up is we can see more deeply into some of the layers of ourself that we're not always in touch with. And we can start to see that sometimes in relationships, I say that I want the relationship to improve and I want this thing to feel differently. Why isn't it showing up as connected? Why isn't it showing up as loving? And as my self-awareness practice improves, I become more aware, actually, there are some layers of me that want a closer connection to that person, maybe. And maybe there are some layers in me that don't. There might actually be some parts of me that I become mindful of, that have some resistance, that maybe want things to be different than I'm consciously aware, or don't want what I think that I want. I'm not meaning to confuse us. I'm just inviting us to remember we're very, very complex beings. And sometimes when a relationship just doesn't seem to be gelling, despite the conscious intentions of both parties, there might be something in both people that they just haven't quite seen yet. Maybe there's another dynamic under there. So here's our Here's our exercise. And this one we can take a few minutes for. We'll take just a few minutes for. Okay. So one more time, please. Close your eyes if you can. Reconnect to your beautiful breathing body there. Reconnect to the beautiful breathing moment. And spend a few seconds here calling into your heart. Really calling into your heart the best you can. The image and the feeling of someone that you love a great, great deal. Someone that you care for very, very deeply. Call that into your mind, call that into your heart, that person, as best you can. See if you can kind of see them there in your mind's eye and maybe even generate a bit of the feeling. Someone you care for very much, someone you love very much. Pull them into your heart. And you can ask yourself the questions. How do I feel? What emotions do you notice when you're holding that person in your mind and your heart? What emotions can you notice? And then you can ask yourself the other questions. What stories? What thoughts? What narratives do I notice about that person that's connected to those feelings? I bet those emotions have a story or words, some thoughts attached to them. Just notice those. It's good to be curious about that, to be able to see it a little more clearly. And then finally, we can ask ourselves, what's the want? What's the desire in this relationship? What's my impulse? What do I want? What do I ask of that relationship? What do I imagine that I get from this relationship, right? From that person I care for so much. There's strong feelings there, probably, some thoughts and beliefs, right? Some stories and memories. And then when we translate that into, what do I want from that relationship? What I'm starting to become aware of as a mindfulness practitioner is, this is what I am carrying, some version of what I just experienced. This is what I'm carrying into that relationship. This is how this person and my interaction, my relationship with this person, these are the feelings I associate with that. These are the stories and ideas, the beliefs I have about that relationship. And this is how it shows up in my life. This is the need that it meets for me, the thing I ask of it. This is what I want from it. Comfort or belonging, love, care, reassurance, something like that. Can you feel how we're just being curious? Oh, this is one of the things that's driving, and these are some of the layers I can bring into my awareness in a relationship that I consider to be loving and fond and affectionate, right? And so mindfulness in relationships would be me being aware, part of why this relationship with this person shows up for me the way that it does is how I feel, the kind of thoughts that I have, and in me, the desires and the needs that are being met. It's just important to see that, right? Oh, that's part of why I would say, oh, I really love that. I love going to grandma's house. She's my favorite. I love my grandma. There's feelings there. There's stories there, right? There's beliefs there. And there's something that I expect to happen when I go visit my grandma. There's something that I kind of want. There's something I'm looking for when I go there. And I want to see in me what that is, because that's half of the relationship. If grandma were here, she might be able to tell you her feelings and her thoughts and her memories and what she asks for. See how we're exploring the contact point? I don't know this part yet because that's another human, but I sure get intimate with this part, the me part. Oh, I can see this is my own landscape, right? Okay. So, let's do another one. Very same thing. Quickly, please, or gently, please. Gently and quickly. We can close our eyes again. Close our eyes again for just another minute. And we're going to do the very same thing. We can always come back to the safety of the still seat and the gently moving breath. That can be a safe place for us. And now I invite you to call into your mind with me, call into your heart. Someone that's in your life that has a quality about them that you wish they would change. Something about whoever this person is, something that you wish they would change. This might be the coworker, right? Who has a habit that you wish they would change, or the neighbor who makes the noise in the morning that you wish was different, or the child or the parent or the spouse that does something that you wish was different. It doesn't matter which person you change, or which person you call into your mind, but it's somebody that you wish did something that differently. Spend just a second picking out one of those people. See if you can call them into your heart or into your mind. Anyone will do. And let's ask ourselves these same questions now. How do I notice that I feel when I'm thinking about that person? Just how do I notice that I feel? What feelings can I notice when I think about this person? This person's a little more challenging. So probably the feelings are going to be different. And just like before, let's be curious about the thoughts that are connected to those feelings. What's the story there? What's the idea? How do I usually think about them? Labels or desires, narratives. And then finally, what do I want? What do I notice that I'm wanting as I think about this person? I can see my feelings. I can see how I think about them. I wonder if there's something that I'm wanting from them, wanting them to do or not do something different maybe. Yeah, okay. So, again, you can see the pattern we've established here. You can see the pattern we've established. I sit down and I'm curious. Hey, how am I feeling? How am I feeling? What am I thinking about? What am I wanting? I'm just connecting with my own interior experience. This is mindfulness of feelings or mindfulness of emotion, mindfulness of thoughts, mindfulness of desire. Just being aware. There's no judgment of any of these things, right? Because this is mindfulness. If you notice, we haven't said good or bad. We haven't said more or less. There's nothing being pushed away. There's nothing being grabbed onto. It's okay. Everything's okay. From the very beginning, we created an agreement with ourselves. I'm just going to practice mindfulness. Anything I see is welcome to be seen. I'm just shining the light on the field. All right? The sunlight isn't making any distinction between what it's shining on. It's okay. It shines on the grass, and it shines on the stones, and it shines on the dirt, and it shines on the weeds. It just shines. We can make decisions about different stuff later, but for now, we're just seeing it. And so I start by going, hey, how am I feeling? What am I thinking about? What am I wanting? And then we did that very same thing, those very same questions we pulled into our hearts when we were imagining a loving relationship, a relationship that we think of as being safe and in some way nourishing for us, and go, oh, there's different feelings there, there's different stories, there's different desires. And then we finally went, hey, I then wonder how it shows up in relationships that have a little bit more friction, something I wish was different, something I wish would change. Same thing. What are my feelings? Again, this is all about the self. What are my feelings? What are my thoughts? What am I wanting? And the reason we're doing these exercises under our topic, mindfulness in relationships, is, as I am moving through my day and I am in relationship with this body and these emotions, I want to stay dialed in and I want to stay curious. I don't want to have an adversarial relationship with my own body, bad, or my own feelings, bad, or my own thoughts, bad, or my own, right? Can you feel? That's going to be the primary relationship, developing a mindful and loving relationship with self. And then the awareness of, and of course, I'm going to carry this pattern into my relationships with people that I love. And I'm also going to carry this pattern into relationships with people I don't know or even have a hard time with. So me being very, very clear about, hey, how are you feeling? What stories are you telling yourself about these people, right? What are you wanting them to do is a crucially important first step into developing, hopefully, a connection that's life-affirming and sustaining for everybody, right? But being honest with the self, at least being aware. This is how I feel. This is what I'm thinking. Wow, there's a lot of work I have to do. I can see some of my thoughts aren't helpful. Some of my thoughts probably aren't true, right? But my feelings are there and my desire is there. And so this is what we want to bring into relationship, the connection with self. And so the reminder that mindfulness traditions usually offer is a basic self-reminder that, hey, just like me, my cat and my neighbor and my parent and my kid or whoever this other living being is, just like me, they want to be happy and they want to be healthy and they want to feel safe and they want to feel loved and they want to be free and they want to be at ease because all beings do. And so it's important for me to remind myself, hey, that's in the biggest possible sense what I am wanting, and it's what they are wanting too. So there's a commonality. And however that relationship shows up, and there's a million different possibilities, I want to remind myself going into everything, hey, this is how I'm feeling. This is what I'm noticing about myself. I am self-aware. And at some level, we are both wanting the same general things about being alive. So important to remind ourselves of those things. So I know you can tell we were just skating along the surface, and any one of those things we could have probably spent a month on. And for those of you who have a journal practice, a more formal self-aware practice, somebody you work with or something like that, explore these things. These are all, like I said, just bite-sized, but there's a meal and many meals probably in each one of the things we talked about today. Next month, we're going to talk about exploring nourishment as part of mindfulness in daily life. And it'll start just like today did with mindfulness of body and breath, because we always do. But now, because we still have just a few minutes left, I am going to look and see if I can find something in the chat that we can speak to. Yes, we do. We have somebody asking if someone's having a disagreement with a loved one and can feel the anger building up, what's a practical mindfulness technique they can use right in that moment? Oh, what a great question. I'm sure everybody here can identify with that, right? Very, very good question. I'll try to be quick here because that's a really good question, but I want to make sure I get to some other stuff too. I would say that's a twofold. I would say in the moment, there's probably one thing we can do, which is, hey, where's my breath? I know that sounds a little funny at first, but the question is already being asked from the position of, I am aware that anger is arising in me. I'm aware, I'm standing here with my loved one, or I'm sitting here with my loved one, and I'm already aware that anger is arising in me. That's okay. That's a really okay thing, which is why I'm saying, hey, follow your breath. Because what I hope you're hearing is it's perfectly okay that irritation is showing up for you. There's probably a bunch of reasons why, and we don't know what they are yet. But we want our very first point of contact, relationship, remember? We want our very first point of contact with our own anger to be, oh, it's okay that you're here. I see that you're here. I get that you're here. There's a reason that you're here. And so I'm going to create more space in me for you. This is me opening the door saying, it's okay, come on in. You're feeling irritated. I can see that. And so I'm going to take a couple of deep breaths. So I hope what you're hearing in that is there's a yes to the anger. It's okay that you're here. I don't have to act from that place. I don't have to throw plates. I don't have to say angry words. That's a different thing. But between me and the anger, I want there to be a yes. I see that you're here. And that's why I would say twofold, and this is later when the conversation's over, I'm probably going to want to spend a little bit more time with that feeling and go, hey, what was going on? What was that about for you? Just what we did today. What are the thoughts that are supporting that anger? What do they go back to? Is there a story there? Is there a belief there? Is there something you were wanting that wasn't happening? But I want to be curious, and I want to be in loving relationship with anger. And it always has to start with the very first time I notice it, the very first moment I notice it. Oh, you're here. I will breathe with you until I get some more information. Yeah, great question. Is it possible to be too mindful in a relationship, like overthinking every word or interaction instead of just being natural? That's a great question too. Thank you. I wouldn't call that too mindful, because no, it's not possible to be too mindful. But what I would suggest there is I become aware in myself of how I create narratives, and then how I have a feeling, and then a thought, and then a self-doubt, and then another thought that fights with the first thought. And now all of a sudden I have layers of essentially conflict within myself. There's just like, well, but that might be true, and that might be true, and that might be true. And I kind of start to spiral, and I kind of start to spin and overthink, and a lot of us do. But the mindfulness part is the part of you, because you're the one who asked this wonderful question that goes, oh, I can see overthinking happening. There's the moment where you go, oh, overthinking is happening. Can you feel that in that moment, you're not overthinking? You're the one noticing overthinking. You go, oh, I can see that function. It's off to the races right now. Yeah. This is what I do. I bet you there's some anxiety there. Okay. And I can go right back where I started. Where's my breath? Hey, how am I feeling? Oh, I bet I'm feeling really anxious. What am I thinking about? Oh, boy, a whole bunch of stuff. There's a whole carnival, and it turns into self-doubt. Oh, and I bet you there's another feeling there. But can you feel all we're doing then is I am the one in relationship with the fear that feeds that kind of self-doubt and overthinking? Yeah, the mindfulness can kind of break the spell, and it gives us another direction to go. I hope that's helpful, because that's a great question. From Natalia, could you recommend books, movies, TV series on this topic for beginners? There's a bunch of podcasts, so I'm sure there's a whole bunch of stuff online you can find mindfulness, basic practices. I would probably, if you're pretty new to mindfulness, I would stick with basic mindfulness of body, mindfulness of breath, mindfulness of eating, working with the body scan, stuff that's very, very basic. Because as we said tonight, we never outgrow this. And basic and simple doesn't mean easy, and it doesn't mean it's not profound. So certainly that's a resource. Secondarily, any books, there's a lot of books, but any books written by Jon Kabat-Zinn, I would expect those would be translated into pretty much all languages. Jon, Kabat is Kabat dash Zinn, Jon Kabat-Zinn. He's a brilliant mindfulness teacher. And so those are some really good resources for all of us. I've spent a lot of time with Jon Kabat-Zinn. And the last one that I'll have time from today, is it okay if the person I would like to love me more is myself? Yes. Oh, what a beautiful question. The sense of caring more about my physical and mental health, 100%. Thank you for that question. I'll again try to be quick here because that's a beautiful question with lots of implications for mindfulness practice. One of the reasons we did what we did today, right, is I can see how when I am in that relationship with that particular being or person, I'm asking something of it. That's not a bad thing. This is how humans work. But I'm with that person because they make me feel safe. I'm with that person because they make me feel smart. I'm with that person because they're funny. I'm with that person, right? There's not a problem with any of this. It's important for us to see. But what's also important to see is I can see how I'm outsourcing, right? And all of us, it seems like all of us, maybe you're an exception somewhere out there, but most of us imagine that self-care, mindfulness of self, care for self, love for self is somehow discouraged or not a good idea or lesser or something. And please let me be, and let this time that we're spending together today be one more reminder it's the opposite of that. Right? If I'm feeling empty and I go to you to be filled, that's not a bad thing. But if I don't develop the capacity to fill myself, then I will always be dependent on you to fill me. And that doesn't feel good for either one of us. And it certainly doesn't make me in loving relationship with myself. It's incredibly important. Mindfulness exercises always start with the self. Always, always, always. It's not selfish. It's quite the opposite. It's very important that I know I'm in a really hard place today, and this has been a really difficult day. And so when my kid comes home or my spouse comes home, it's really important that I know that about myself. There's nothing wrong here. There's no enemies here. But for me to be able to say, I am so tired today, and I have been so frustrated all day, and I'm feeling lonely, and I'm feeling scared, that's really important for me to know because it's going to impact the relationship I'm about to have. And so if I don't start with myself, if I don't know, how are you feeling? What are you taking care of? Mindfulness of responsibility, mindfulness of money and energy, mindfulness of nourishment, those are really important things. So thank you for that question. That's a beautiful question. And 100% we start with ourselves. We have to start with ourselves. Well, my friends, I wish we had more time. I'm sure there are many, many more questions out there we could spend a lot of time with, but it has been brilliant to be with you. I appreciate your practice. I appreciate your curiosity about this. And please join us again next month. Mindfulness of nourishment is going to take us lots of exciting places. So I very much hope to see you again then. Thank you again for being here. Thanks again to American Center Moscow. I'll see you soon.